Part two of the offer process involves the 4 or 5 pieces of paper that get submitted. So once you've found a house you like, once you've drafted the offer, as we discussed in a previous episode, there are a couple other supporting documents that we'll send along. And this is going to refer to just how it primarily works in Massachusetts here. So if you're listening to this podcast from a different part of the country or a different part of the world, it might be different in your state. So in Massachusetts, we're going to submit the offer to purchase with the terms that we discussed in a previous episode: price, good faith, P&S check, P&S date, closing date, mortgage, commitment date. So to accompany those documents, we're going to offer what's called a mandatory disclosure, which lets a particular agent define to you in writing how they're going to represent you. So if you have a buyer agent, he's going to check the box that says he's going to represent you as buyer agent. If you happen to be making an offer with the seller agent who represents the seller and you, then you're going to sign a form that's called a dual agency consent form in addition to the mandatory disclosure. Okay, so offer to purchase, mandatory disclosure. You're going to want an updated pre-approval from your lender with a date of a couple days from within the offer. You don't want to submit a pre-approval letter with an offer with a date that's got 3 weeks ago. We're going to make sure it's updated. We want to make sure that we do have a pre-approval and not a pre-qualification, meaning you've spoken to your lender, you've given them the documents, they are and pretty satisfied with how your finances look that will qualify for your loan, not just a surface level, put your name in the box on the internet, spit out a pre-qualification. Make sure you want to submit a pre-approval and a copy of the check. Now, some listings will put the lead-based paint form up on the MLS, where you can download and include a buyer signature on that. Some listings and some listing agents will include a seller statement or a seller disclosure. Those are sometimes required and not required. Some houses have them, some don't. If there is one attached to the listing in the MLS, you'd submit that too. So offer, mandatory disclosure, the lead-based paint if there is one, copy of the check, copy of the pre-approval, and then the seller disclosure if there is one. Okay, so that's how we'll put the offer together. We'll fax the offer or sign the offer and send it over to the listing side. We'll then obviously talk to your buyer agent about how long it should take and what's a reasonable expectation for response time. Right? Might not happen immediately. Understand people do different things. Sometimes sellers work at night. Sometimes sellers are airline pilots. Sometimes they're in the military. Sometimes they're doctors or surgeons, so they're not able to respond to the offers right away. So you want to just have a little bit of patience as to when you get that response back, and understand that the response might not come back in written form. It might come back in verbal form. So once you've submitted that offer in writing, you then can dialogue back and forth without resubmitting an offer every time your offer would change. Then once the offer gets accepted, you could then redraft the offer sheet should you need to, and then move into your inspection phase. Okay, so part 2 of the offer. Hopes this helps. Evan at the Russell Team, at Work with Evan on Twitter. Thank you for listening to the Russell Realty Minute.